Hey folks, it's me Roger back with Roger's Record Addiction. Actually, I haven't been buying a lot of records lately. My turntable was acting weird. Turns out power supply is kind of hinky. I might have to look into upgrading that power supply. It's working now, so that's whatever. I have a couple CDs to show. Only available on CD. So the new Mary Halvorson Octet on Firehouse 12 called Away With You. This adds Susan Alcorn on pedal steel guitar, along with her usual band with Jonathan Finlayson on trumpet, John Irabagon on alto saxophone, Ingrid Labrock on tenor saxophone, Jacob Garchik on trombone, Mary Halvorson on guitar, Susan Alcorn on pedal steel, John Hebert on bass, and Ches Smith on drums. Great stuff. I think her ensemble stuff is really accessible. It gets kind of out there sometimes, but very melodic, very rhythmic, very it should be on Blue Note. Yeah, excellent. And speaking of Ingrid Labrock, she has a new CD out on Intact called Serpentines. Wow, this is freaking amazing. Pretty out there. It's a ensemble with Ingrid Labrock on tenor and soprano saxophone and glockenspiel, Peter Evans on piccolo trumpet and trumpet, Mia Masaoka on koto, Craig Taborn on piano, Sam Pluta on electronics, Dan Peck on tuba, and Tyshawn Sori on drums. Excuse me. Wild. She just gets better and better. She's a force of nature. What can I say? I love it. All right. Enough CDs. Vinyl records are what you're here for, correct? A little tickle. Cheers, everybody. All right, so I only have one new record to show. Just came in mail this week. I just found out about it last week on the Facebook page. Henry Threadgill's Zoo-It. Not his latest one. I think he's got another one out. But In for a Penny, In for a Pound on Pi Records. Now, this was the first I ever knew of Pi putting out vinyl. Threadgill has made a bunch of CDs on Pi, and they're wonderful. Pi is a great label. So yeah, double LP. I ordered it from their Bandcamp page, and so there's 100 copies are available signed by Mr. Threadgill. It's a beautiful gatefold and signed by the man himself. Yeah. Really nice. Sounds really, really good. Really makes me want them to reissue his other records on vinyl. That would be awesome. So Zoo-It, long-running ensemble with Jose Davila on trombone and tuba, Liberty Ullman on guitar, Christopher Hoffman on cello, and Elliot Humberto Cavi on drums and percussion. If you're not familiar with Threadgill, do yourself a favor. This is kind of like chamber music jazz. It's very serious, but he's got his own way of doing things. He's a little cagey talking about his systems, but he has this system where it's not like chord changes and scales that you're working with him. It's more like little cells of intervals, and it's like the intervallic relations become the structure of the piece, and things can move really quickly. You have these intervals for a second or a bar or whatever, and you move to the next one. Very difficult to play, but these guys have been playing together for a long time, and they make it just sound completely natural and flowing and beautiful. Highly recommended. I hope Pi continues doing the vinyl thing, especially if it's going to sound as good as that does. Flat, centered pressings, quiet, beautiful, fantastic. All right. So my wife was given a handful of records by a friend of hers whose brother had passed away, leaving behind apparently a massive jazz collection. And Liz had said that she loves jazz, and her husband collects records, and so anyways, guy showed up with these records, and really, really nice. So we have More Blues and the Abstract Truth from Oliver Nelson. These are all Impulse reissues from the late 90s. I remember when these came out, late 90s, that's like the nadir of vinyl. And but like people like Michael Freemer were pushing for keeping vinyl alive. And anyway, these sound really good. I have no idea about where the mastering comes from or anything like that, but they sound really good. I'm really quite impressed. I wasn't expecting them to sound quite as good. And this is classic John Coltrane Sonship, 1965 recording that came out posthumously in the early 70s. Fantastic, just really nice to have on vinyl. And a couple of them were still sealed. So Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, and it still has the Tower Records sticker. Let's see, can you see that? So it was put out in November of 1997, $13.99. Remember Tower Records? Remember when vinyl was cheaper than CDs? Remember those days? So yeah, I haven't even opened these yet because I wanted to show you these. $13.99. From June 1997. So that's the kind of collector this guy was. He would just buy lots of records, and they would go decades without being listened to or opened. Really, really nice. Thank you very much, Liz's friend. Very, very generous. So yeah, like I said, I haven't really been digging. It's kind of it's a slow new release time, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I don't know. I just haven't been feeling it, folks. What can I say? But never let that stop me. And so I found a couple things. This is a nice find. Lee Morgan, self-titled, double album on Blue Note from 1970. When is it from? 71, I think. It's his also known as the last session. It was his last session before he was killed. And it's he made his name as a hard bopper, on Blue Note, but this is moving in a more not exactly funky, but more like contemporary production by George Butler. But it's really good. It's really nice record. Yeah, so, and Blue Note, pretty much buy Blue Notes if I see them and can afford them. This was a nice find too. Joe Henderson, Multiple on Milestone from 1973. This is killer. This has a great band with Joe Henderson, of course, on tenor sax. He does a little singing on here, but it's cool. Larry Willis on electric piano, ring modulator, and Echoplex. That tells you all you need to know that this is going to be one of those records. Dave Holland on electric and acoustic bass. Jack DeJohnette on drums. Arthur Jenkins. He changed his name, I think, on congas and percussion. James Bullomer played his guitar on one track, although you can't really hear him. And John Thomas on guitars on one track. So this is in that like Electric Miles kind of mode. And Joe Henderson, I don't have a lot of records by him. He's kind of like unjustly kind of unheralded player, still going, I think, isn't he? Anyway, fantastic record. Really, really happy to have that. This is one I got actually a while ago. I just never got around to cleaning it up until recently. It's really nice. Roswell Rudd, featuring Hod O'Brien and Sheila Jordan, Flexible Flyer on Heirs to Freedom from 1975. Yeah, Sheila Jordan. I don't normally go for jazz vocals, but she's great. This is really good. In fact, I don't really go for trombone in general. I think it's an unwieldy instrument, but Roswell Rudd, it's wieldy. It's wieldy. Yeah, this was a surprise. This is this cheap record. Really nice. It's kind of straight ahead sometimes. They do some covers like Maiden Voyage, What Are You Doing with the Rest of Your Life, and but it's interesting. It's like really tasty, really, and it gets interesting. It's a good record. Here's an ECM, Egberto Gismonti solo from 1979 on ECM. I really like his guitar playing. I'm not a huge fan of his piano noodling, so this is kind of a mixed bag for me. It's pleasant enough, but Brides of Funkenstein, Never Buy Texas from a Cowboy on Atlantic from 1979. The jacket's not in great shape, but the vinyl plays excellent. So Brides of Funkenstein, so George Clinton, Parliament, Funkadelic, Joint, 79. So it's got that disco beat going, but it's George Clinton. It's brilliant. I mean, the 15-minute long title track is just lots of fun. You don't see Parliament Funkadelic stuff around in decent condition, so I was happy to snap that up. I remember Sam playing that record for me years and years ago. All right, some pop music, Roxy Music's Avalon. A great record. I didn't have it on vinyl. I mean, I did 1 billion years ago. I've been looking for a decent copy. I found one. This is sadly the only Roxy Music record I own. Isn't that sad? But what a great record. Just smooth, sophisticated pop music. The wife really likes this record a lot too, so score some points there. And finally, a short video for me. That's good. All right, this record dates back to my child. This dates back to like being 13, 12, maybe even. And I first heard this in like the band room at school. A band director played it because it was contemporary at the time. I always loved it, and then I got older and I sold it, and I've always wanted a copy back, and not easy to find in good shape. Common record, the Brothers Johnson. Look out for number 1. You see this all the time, but often beat because it's a party record. So nice, clean copy. Paid a whopping $3.50 for it, I think. It sounds great. I mean, I'll Be Good to You. What a great pop soul song, and Get the Funk Out of My Face, and their cover of Come Together is really pretty cool. Yeah, this is great. I think he died recently this year or last year. You never know what I'm going to show. All right, that's it. Thanks for hanging out and commenting or not or whatever. Christmas time's a coming, and I hope Santa brings you lots of vinyl records and fun toys, and I'll see you on the other side.